Hey, what's up guys? John here. BRICS nations just signed a $25 billion deal yesterday.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is in China for talks aimed at strengthening trade between the two countries.
And so far in 2023, they've already dumped $123 billion worth of U.S. treasuries and stocks in 2023. When you look at what's going on in the world right now, there's more division today than we've ever seen before. Between Israel and Hamas and Russia and Ukraine, all of these situations, all of these problems, you look at what America is doing. We're issuing sanctions on so many different countries right now. And as this is occurring, we're closing down our own oil leases and our own oil refineries. So what is this going to mean? Well, I'm going to show you, because we're going to witness what I believe is going to be an inflationary period in America, a much higher period of inflation than anything we've experienced in the past, and borrowing costs and interest rates are about to go through the roof. Things are about to get really crazy. You need to prepare. You need to position yourself for what's happening. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate the people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com by clicking the link in the description below this video for a free strategy session. Take a look at this. So, UK borrowing cost hit the highest point in 25 years, since 1998. Right, 1998. Then you look at what's going on in America. This came out Friday. 10-year Treasury hits a point at which we haven't seen since 2007. 5%, and borrowing costs could head even higher. They're going to head a lot higher. In fact, it's going to get crazy when we start to see this. So look, some analysts and investors fear China could dump these treasuries in retaliation, and this weaponization of its holdings would send interest rates higher, potentially hurting the economic growth. Well, look at this. When you see this chart here, this is which countries hold the most U.S. debt. You have China, you have India, a lot of BRICS nations here. But when you look at all the sanctions that we're issuing on all these other countries, what I believe is ultimately going to happen is people are going to be looking, even if they're not under U.S. sanctions, they're going to be looking at this and saying, you know what, they're weaponizing our trade. They're weaponizing everything because America holds the reserve currency status. So more countries are going to be looking for ways in which they can diversify risk. It makes sense. But look at this. Look, sanctions on China. U.S. takes aim at fentanyl, they say. Then, all these different sanctions. U.S. sanctions Chinese firms on crackdown. U.S. escalates sanctions as China touts its own ChatGPT. It's all these different sanctions. Here's another one, an AI chip war with China, right? Then you look at what's going on right here. Same thing. In Russia, more sanctions just issued a week ago, right? Then you look at here, you have more sanctions now on UAE, on Dubai, and United Emirates. Then you have U.S. sanctions on Hamas just a couple days ago. So what is this going to mean? Well, let's take a hard look at the direction in which those countries are heading in and where we're actually headed. Where we're headed is we're moving into this sustainability plan. And this is on sustainability. I'll pull it down here, sustainability.gov, right? There's a government website. So America at one point was completely independent on oil. Well, that is coming to an end. And you're already seeing it with these leases being closed down and refineries being closed down. But look at these targets that we're going to be hitting over the next decade or so. So 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2030, right? 100%. So what does this mean? Obviously, we're not just going to go through a gradual transition. To go 100% carbon-free pollution electricity in 6 years, it's going to take something dramatic for that to happen. 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2035, including 100% light-duty acquisitions by 2027. Net zero building emissions, right? Emissions in buildings, 2045, including 50% reduction in 8 years, right? You start to think about this. How is this going to be a smooth, easy transition? It's not. It's definitely not going to be. There's no way. There's going to be a massive disruption, I believe, happening with oil. There's going to be a massive disruption with energy, and there's going to be that big problem, then there's a big panic, and then the solution is going to be clean energy, and that's going to be that huge disruption that's about to change America as we know it. Net emissions, right? Procurement by 2050, net emissions operations 2050. You start to look at all these different standards, but you look at, how is this going to work? Well, right here, if you look, implementing and enforcing building energy regulations and mandatory performance standards for existing buildings. So they're going to be pushing all these different standards all throughout America. Even if you look at, like, you can click on our cities, and you can look here, all throughout America, all these different cities are going to be moving in this very direction. And these are some of the biggest donors, the biggest entities that you can imagine. I mean, you got like the entire UK government, for example, right here. UK government, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You have all of these large companies that are all going to be doing this. You have George right here. And so what is this going to mean? It's going to mean massive disruption that's going to be coming for America. And why this is happening, and everything, World Bank, and everyone's talking about going green, you have China to become oil refining juggernaut, raising global risk, right, just a few months ago. So you're going to see these BRICS nations begin to produce cheaper and cheaper energy. And so when that energy becomes very cheap, and their labor is cheap, and their living standards are cheap, they're going to have a big competitive advantage over America. You're going to start seeing a lot of companies in America looking at this high tax, high regulation type of environment, and then look over in India, look over in other places, Dubai, look at these other locations and say, you know what, I can go there at 0% tax, I can go there at 4% tax, I can go there and get cheap labor, I can do this, and and that's what you're going to start to see. You're going to start seeing a lot of American opportunities, a lot of American jobs, a lot of big corporations here flooding outside of America, I believe, over the coming couple of years. So you have China sells the most U.S. assets in 4 years, dumping $21 billion of stocks. When did this come out? 4 days ago, 3 days ago. They're dumping them. But you have to ask yourself, is this just happening coincidentally? Is this just random? Or are we actually being forced into this? Well, I'm going to show you something that is going to blow your mind. So blame the BRICS for the end of global domination, right? And so they say nearly 15 years. This was founded, by the way, in 2009, right? Major emerging economies established 2009. The group has yet to achieve its ambition of ousting the US dollar as dominant global currency, right? But the alliance, originally comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, took a major step toward flexing its communal currency muscle at its recent summit in South Africa. 6 new members joining the organization: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, the UAE, in an effort to reduce the dollar's decade-long dominance and its end to the preferred payment for the one commodity that still dominates the global trade, oil. De-dollarizing the world economy would have dangerous consequences for America, right? The borrowing cost here would skyrocket. People have no idea. But look at this. Both the United States at large, right, they would say we would benefit from a less dominant US dollar. Now, where's this coming from? Well, it's coming from the Council of Foreign Relations, right? And they say the same thing right here. Right? This all connects. This all connects. And you look at this, and then this is right on the Council of Foreign Relations. You have to ask yourself, okay, well, what else connects? How does this whole picture kind of come together? Well, look at this. Jared Bernstein, Bidenomics White House advisor Jared Bernstein, explains Biden's economic agenda. Now, when you look at him, Jared Bernstein, and you see, that he's been talking about dethroning the dollar 2014. Another one, this is August 2014, August 7, 2014. Strong or not, the dollar's reserve status hurts America. Right? They're saying the same thing on the Council of Foreign Affairs, saying the same exact thing that we don't need really to have this because it's hurting us. Right? It says both the United States and the world at large would benefit from a less dominant U.S. dollar. Right? So you're like, okay, well, that's what the head of the economic advisor in the White House is saying, the same exact thing. Council of Foreign Affairs, White House. Then you start to see all the BRICS nations continuing to get bigger and bigger and more powerful, and our debt becoming, it grows every single day by the billions. Our debt continues to grow, and our sanctions continue to get pushed out into further and further territory. So what is this going to mean? Well, it's going to mean we're going to start seeing a lot of bank layoffs. We're going to see banks having a hard time issuing loans because a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford these loans. And what is that going to mean? It means this economy is about to greatly contract, especially when you consider that we have $2 trillion in corporate debt that has to get refinanced in 2024. I believe this all connects here. That's why banks laid off 20,000 employees so far this year. They laid off 20,000 employees quietly. They're quietly cutting these jobs because they know that the U.S. is going to start to contract in a very big way in 2024 and 2025. All of this connects so perfectly. It connects so evenly that I believe what we're going to start to see here in 2024, 2025 is we're going to see a lot of small businesses having a hard time getting access to funding. We're going to start seeing a lot of people having a very hard time. And what do people do when they have a hard time? They sell off assets. And when you start to connect everything, you have the student loan situation, October 1. You have 43.5 million borrowers having to start paying these payments. You're going to start seeing these borrowers, many of which they can't afford these payments, they're not going to pay. You're going to start seeing all of these items go on their credit report. That's going to tank people's credit scores. They're going to have a harder time getting qualified for funding and financing because they're not going to not just have the cash, not going to have the credit, they're not going to have the opportunity, the employment opportunity to be able to even qualify. So you're going to start seeing banks issuing less and less loans as interest rates continue to rise, as our treasuries continue to, the treasury yield continues to likely increase. You're going to start seeing a situation where banks aren't going to have money to lend to people, the everyday American. They might lend it to large corporations. They might lend it to top tier borrowers that have cash, that have great credit. But that's going to be a much smaller pool of people than, was the case just a year or so ago. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think we're walking into a scenario like Jared Bernstein is suggesting here, where the dollar, doesn't need to be the reserve currency, like the currency of or the Council of Foreign Affairs, like what they're saying? They're saying the Council of Foreign Relations saying the same thing. So you start to connect all these dots. To me, it's signaling a demise, a slow erosion of the U.S. dollar, the slow erosion of living standards in America, and a very, very, very big change coming for us all. I believe that you have probably 2 years, 3 years to make some really, really, really smart moves. You should look at the world in a very different lens. Look at the world not taking it from what it was in the past, where you would anticipate a 2%, 3%, 5% inflation. You should anticipate a 20% inflation, a 25% inflation, interest rates going to 10%. You should always forecast the worst type of scenario going forward, because it gives you room to move. Because if the worst doesn't happen, then you're even better prepared to invest. You're even better prepared to make smart decisions. So I believe that's what's going to happen. The smart are going to make really, really smart decisions to position themselves for a world of certainty, and the rest will ignore it, pretending like it's not happening. But when you connect all the dots, that's what it says. What do you think about it? Drop below, hit the like button. If you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you. My company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com by clicking the link in the description below this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.